Hey, everybody. Nice. That's amazing. Okay, so welcome. Welcome to your yin practice. We usually start on our spine, or I shouldn't say usually. I tend to start us on our spine, and I think for a lot of us, we come to this practice hoping it will be restorative and that we can bundle up. But I do want us to start seated today. Let's come into our easy pose or any version that's comfortable for you. I'm seated on a bolster that's allowing my hips to roll forward and less stress of lifting my knees up. That might be a great option to start, or on your yoga blocks is another option. And as you settle yourself in, close the eyes down. Create some space between the lips. Bringing the tongue to the roof of the mouth. And then shift your focus to your lower back. Send some pranayama, some breath there. Bringing your focus to your heart. Imagining that breath trace the collarbone. Bringing your focus to your right palm, allowing you to stay grounded, face down. Bringing your focus to the middle of the forehead. Dropping the eyebrows. In tonight's practice, there will be spaces that we might feel uncomfortable. And we connect with this space by calling it our edge. Getting to that moment where we start to feel maybe some fire, some heat, or maybe even our thoughts coming to the surface. When you get to that space of wanting to draw out of something, I ask if you can live in that space a little longer. Not to a point of harm or total discomfort, but to a space of discovery and digging a little deeper of what is actually speaking to us. When we draw out of those holes, we allow ourselves to ease in and be open to more space and clarity. We'll start tonight's practice with our Ganesha Mudra by bringing our hands to our heart and making a little cup of each hand, like a C, and making a lock. So I'm just gonna come off because of course I wore black tonight. So my C and my C, and we bring them together and make our lock. Yeah, I'm checking in with my friends in the studio, perfect. Kind of like that opera singer. I know I should stop using that as a reference, but it works. So closing the eyes again, elbows wide, shoulders back, a little bit of a pull here, and then softening. Imagining Ganesha with his beautiful elephant trunk and asking him to remove any obstacles that are in our way. And as he reaches out with his trunk, he picks it up and throws it aside for us. So tonight, maybe it's as a thought comes into our practice. We ask Ganesha to resolve whatever that is. A doubt in ourselves, a worry, or an overall negative thought. Still keeping the eyes closed, we'll switch to grip, breathing into that heart space. The eyes closed, bring your hands down. Tuck your chin to your chest. Maybe take a moment to set intention or an affirmation for this practice. Gently rocking the chin from side to side. Any of those little spaces that feel sticky, giving them a little wake up. We'll bring right ear over towards our right shoulder, tucking our chin down towards our armpit, holding it there for about 3 breaths. Scooping the head over to the other side, ear to shoulder, then holding it there for 3. Bringing our head back to center, tucking our chin, rounding our spine. And then lifting our arms up and opening our heart. Hands back to heart center. Let's have a beautiful practice. We'll come off of our props that we're seated on. And actually we'll bring them to the top of our mat, either using your bolster or your blocks. And it's going to be an extension of your mat for you right now. So think more about height. So if it's something that is just accessible, grab it. It's there to bring it closer to your mat. We'll come into our tabletop. We'll start there. We'll just move with our hips from side to side. So there might be moments in your practice that feel a bit more familiar as a hatha or even a gentle vinyasa. We usually talk about these being our counter poses after holding. In tonight's class as well, you will find spaces where you might not hear my guidance. And that really allows you to soften into the pose. Less focus on what's coming up next. So we'll come to stillness in our table. We'll move our prop if we're using a bolster right in front of our knees. If you aren't using a bolster, you may bring your blocks to the outside of your hips instead. Then we want to get to a space, if it is safe for our knees, working into the shin. We're going to lift our knees off and maybe even just place our bolster underneath for a bit of lift and height so that we're working into the front of the shin. I can already feel that this might be too much for me tonight, so I'm going to actually not use the bolster. Instead, hands down by my sides and floating the knees. If this is too much, or if you have a knee injury, come to seated and do 1 foot at a time, just by drawing the toes back and pressing the top of the foot into your hand. We'll do it 2 times for those that are doing 1 leg at a time. So finding some stillness, maybe drawing out of that lower back, finding height, closing our eyes, and breathing in. Let's try to stay for 6 breaths today on each round. We'll come off of our props, just do a little reset. If you're seated and doing one leg at a time, you can stay there. If you're in more of that tabletop, just take your feet from side to side. Let's do that one more time. So we'll bring that bolster back underneath our knees, or if you're doing one foot at a time, please switch legs. And finding some length in the spine again, even if you're seated, or pressing the top of the foot if you can. 6 breaths here. Exhaling out. Our counter pose will be coming into our down dog. Put your props handy, tap your toes, press back into your down dog. Maybe it's a little walk with the dog. Maybe it's stillness. You'll come back to tabletop. We're coming into our toe squat. This can be very intense or uncomfortable at times. So I'm going to recommend either rolling up a blanket. The thicker rectangular bolsters might be too tall, but if you do have one, you can try that option first. So we're coming up, I'll show you first. We're coming up onto our knees. Our knees are hip width distance. Then we're going to place our bolster on the back of our ankles so that we can come to seated, but at the same time tucking our toes. So that might be too tall for you. That's option 1 with the bolster. Option 2 is I was setting you up. You use a blanket, roll it up, and sit back. Toes are tucked, or using a couch pillow. So whatever you choose, we'll start there. So we're going to the table, tucking the toes. If this is already enough, stay with the hands in the earth. If you can walk yourself back, see if you can go there, or fully upright with the toes tucked. We're working into the fascia of the feet, which is connected with the meridian lines of the gallbladder. So you might start to feel sensation in the belly. Start to breathe into the belly. Reset all over again. We'll come out of that as we walk out to the table. Pick up the feet, roll through the ankles. We're going to do it one more time. So if you have your bolster there still, don't remove it yet. I will actually incorporate my bolster this time. Tucking the toes and sitting back, whatever version you need, or hands on the earth. Nice and tall still through the spine, whatever variation you chose. Breathing into those spaces that feel heavy or dark. Breathing into those spaces that are a little uncomfortable. Two more breaths. Come off and moving across the side. May feel good to move through cat and cow or come back into your down dog, whatever you, or cuddling the feet out, or flushing them out from side to side works as well. Okay, we'll come back to table. Have a thinner mat, highly recommend using the blanket to support your knees across your mat. I find that my mat is thick enough, so I'm gonna not use the blanket. Coming to table, blocks should be very handy, or bolster for that height connection of your mat. And that foot's gonna step forward into this modified lunge. My knee is down. Picking up the back knee, give a little heel toe. Lower the knee down until we get this ramp with the back quad. We're setting up for baby dragon. Blocks to frame our foot, or bolster to support our hands. Soften into it, so we're not gripping here, we're not clenching, we're trying to work into the tissues. And even if you know that you can come to forearms, I'm really going to encourage you to stay tall. We will set our timers that will equal on both sides. Closing the eyes. Finding your breath. And seeing how soon you can arrive and close. So make any adjustments you need at the beginning. Asking yourself if there's any attachment, any spaces we're holding, being aware of those spaces. Taking 3 breaths before coming out of this. Tucking our chin, pressing ourselves up. Bringing that knee to meet its opposite. Pat, pat. Back to neutral table as we switch sides. Right foot steps forward. Picking up that back knee, maybe a little shimmy of the back foot, front knee still stacks. Back foot presses forward. And then finding your placement of the hands to frame that leg. Softening in. 3 breaths before coming out of it. Slowly pressing back and up. Moving to cat and cow or down dog or any counter pose you need. Moving back to a neutral spine and finding our way to seated. We will set up this time with blocks if you have them or maybe want to grab them. I won't show them, but at least set you up that way. Coming to seated into our butterfly, so our soles of feet are going to come together, our knees wide. And if you're familiar with this pose in a hatha class and you are used to bringing your heels in closer, I'm going to ask that you actually bring your heels away, making more of a diamond shape. You can either come forward in this pose or you can stay upright and bring the hands back. I will demo the version tonight though of coming forward. You can place a block in front of your toes and one in front of the groin, and then place your bolster over it. You're welcome to hug. You're welcome to bring your forehead down. You're coming into this fold from the hips. And if you don't have props, it could always just be hands to the earth instead. Again, if you do have block, it's a great option to make a ramp with them, bring some height, and then place your bolster on top. Softening grip of the hands, grip of the jaw. Breathing into that lower back. And allow some rounding through the upper spine as well, as long as it's not adding more stress to the neck. Taking 3 more breaths. Taking our time as we roll out of it. Come to a seated windshield wiper of the knee, so heels to the ground. Rocking the knee from side to side. Then we will find our way to our belly. If you have a thinner bolster, this might be handy. One of the prana bolsters, the rectangular ones, not as thick or tall as this one. If not, you might find that you don't need it. Another great option is rolling up our blanket. It's going to come right underneath the chest. So we're going to come to our belly, setting up for seal. So using that rectangular bolster, if we have it underneath, or rolling up a blanket if we like. Our toes just can come out to the side. They don't need to be tucked and just be relaxed. And then either coming into Sphinx with the elbows into the earth, singing that heart opener, or joining me for seal. Palms off the mat, palms can either be face down or they can be lifted. Less focus on stressing of the shoulders and maybe just allowing your head to come down. So don't need to focus on lifting the head all the time. If it starts to make its way down on our back, closing the eyes, and we'll land here in this heart opener. Breathing into that heart space and maybe setting an affirmation. Noticing if our thoughts have traveled off. Have we met our edge, found that space where we start to get a little uncomfortable? Remembering you always have that option of coming into Sphinx with the elbows down before coming out of this hold completely. So please listen to your body. Staying for 3 more breaths. Bringing our elbows down, moving the blanket or bolster, and then bringing ourselves all the way back down, neutralizing the spine, forehead down. Gently lifting the head, and we're going to move our bolster now, or our pillow, to the outside of the right edge of our mat so that it's lining up with our hip. Just sliding that there, hopefully it's accessible. Then we'll come back to our chest for a second, walk the right hand out to the elbow lift, setting up for our supine twist. Our left arm is going to weave underneath our right. So on our belly, bolsters on our right side, lines up with hip, right hand presses, left arm weaves under. We're going to maybe come off of our mat here, opening up to supine, and then moving that bolster underneath our knee or our calf, so we can open into that beautiful heart opener extension here of the arm. Oh yes, and just soften it. Allowing the head to just land wherever it does. Allowing the right shoulder to melt into the earth. I'll take 3 more breaths. As we slowly come out of this, we'll make our way back to our belly. Picking up that arm, rolling back to the belly, moving that prop aside. Hands underneath the forehead again, resetting the spine. Now, in order to get the bolster to the other side, you may want to press up to child's pose and then move the bolster, unless you have the mobility or accessibility to slide it over to the other side of your mat. Now to add more stress over to the shoulders. Beautiful. Okay, great. We will line up that bolster with the hip on the left side. Pressing left palm to the mat and leaving our right arm underneath this time as you come into that twist. Yes. And then sliding the knee to our chest and lining up the knee on top of the bolster, blocks, pillows, puppy, pet, whatever you have accessible at home. And seeing if you can arrive in this pose maybe a little quicker than we did last time, and not from a space of rushing, but from a space of understanding, maybe having more expectation of how this shape should feel. And with our yin practice, we may notice the body is starting to cool. You need to add layers to allow you to settle in. Please feel free to take a moment to do that. And meeting yourself again where you're at in this pose. The healing you give to the world can happen as gracefully and naturally as the pine trees touch and heal with their life, their presence. Arousing your senses, they fill you with their fragrance. Their presence changes your energy, calms your fear, lets you know all is well. Know you can stand tall, joyfully be who you are, and grow where you are. You have the ability to touch those around you in a way that heals them without hurting or draining you. One of the gifts to yourself and to the world is that of a healer. You don't have to force it. Strive to make it happen. It happens gently and naturally when you love and accept who you are. So in this posture right now, use your breath as a way to heal and restore. Taking 3 long breaths. Slowly rolling back to your belly. Take your time as you pick up that left arm. Pressing yourself up and back into a child's pose to reset the spine. For up to seated just for a moment. You won't stay here too long. So whether it's sitting on your shins or on your sit bones, and just bring a hand to the heart and hand to the belly. Connecting back with our breath, with the warmth of our palms. Do take a moment to add any layers back on, maybe it's your socks or your sweater. We will finish with a heart opener. Then we will come to our spine. Again, if you don't have a bolster, then maybe you just want to come straight to your spine. We're lining it up with the base of our spine, so setting that up, coming into that reclined version of this beautiful heart opener. Now, if your head is tilting back, this is a great opportunity to place another blanket or pillow underneath the head, opening the heart. You're welcome to take your feet into that butterfly if you like, with the knees bent. Keeping the feet warm, tucking yourself in. Arriving. You're welcome to stay here in this final pose if it feels safe and comfortable for your Shavasana. If you would prefer to be on your spine, then take a moment to maybe roll off your props and readjust yourself on your mat. The healing you give to the world can happen as gracefully and naturally as the pine trees touch and heal with their life, their presence, arousing your senses. They fill you with their fragrance. Their presence changes your energy, calms your fears, lets you know all is well. Know you can stand tall, joyfully be who you are, and grow where you are. You have the ability to touch those around you in a way that heals them without hurting or draining you. One of your gifts to yourself and to the world is that of a healer. You don't have to force it, strive to make it happen. It happens gently and naturally when you love and accept who you are. Open to your healing powers, your ability to heal yourself and those around you. Receive this gift with joy. Share it freely with all. Open to your healing powers, and you will cherish your past. All you have gone through and done. Who you are is love. What love does is heal. Melody Beatty, Journey to the Heart. Om Shanti Shanti. Wiggling your fingers and your toes. Finding space through the fingers as you stretch the palms. Finding space between the toes as you extend and then stretch them up again. And then finding space in your heart before stepping off of your mat tonight. We'll come up to seated, whether it's rolling to one side first, pressing out from the support of our cross. And close our practice with that Ganesha Mudra at our heart, closing the eyes down, tucking our chin. Thanking Ganesha for any of the heaviness, anything that we were carrying into class today. Thanking Ganesha for removing that, making space for something new. Bring our palms together to Anahata chakra for our kind thoughts. Palms to our mouth, Vishuddha for our kind words. And back to the heart space, Anahata for compassion. Thank you for trusting in me as your teacher. And thank you to all the teachers that have taught me and allow me to guide you through this practice. Thank you for being you. Namaste.